The world was divided by colour, red and blue. These were the colours of hatred painted onto the metal behemoths that ruled the land. Trains, powerful, unstoppable forces of nature, now instruments of a senseless war. The crimson of the Red Train Empire stretched across the eastern plains, a menacing scar on the landscape. The Blue Nation, a cool, collected power, held the Western Territories. Their trains, sleek and swift, were a symbol of resilience. The two nations, once united by the steel ribbons of the railway, were now locked in a bitter struggle. The cause? A forgotten grievance, lost in the steam and smoke of time. The Great Train War was about to begin, a war that would change the landscape forever. The war began with a roar. Red and blue engines collided in a maelstrom of steel and steam on the island of Sodor. The once peaceful plains of Sodor became a graveyard of twisted metal. The red trains, fueled by their insatiable hunger for conquest, charged headfirst into the blue lines. The Blue Nation, despite being outnumbered, held their ground. Their swift engines, reminiscent of Thomas the Train and his friends, darted and weaved, outmaneuvering the lumbering red behemoths. The battles were brutal. Engines were derailed, their boilers exploding in fiery bursts. The landscape of Sodor was forever scarred. Amidst the chaos, a small blue tank engine named Thomas chugged along. He was no ordinary engine. He was a veteran. His once bright blue paint, now faded and scarred. His cheerful whistle now carried a mournful tone. He had seen too much. He had lost too much. Thomas had once been a bright-eyed, optimistic engine, eager to prove his worth. But the war had changed him. It had stolen his innocence, replacing it with the grim reality of survival. He had witnessed the horrors of war firsthand. He had seen friends and comrades fall, their boilers ripped open, their wheels scattered across the tracks. He had pulled countless hospital trains filled with the wounded and the dying. The memories haunted him, whispering in the steam that escaped his funnel. He had even, on one desperate occasion, single-handedly held off a squadron of red trains, giving his comrades time to escape. Thomas often sat alone in the rail yard, listening to the whispers of the fallen. He could hear their whistles in the wind, their mournful cries echoing across the tracks. He remembered their names, their faces, their hopes and dreams. One night, as he sat in the darkness, he remembered his best friend Edward. Edward had been destroyed in a fierce battle, his boiler ripped apart by a red train's cannon. Another memory surfaced, the memory of Emily, a brave and determined engine who had always stood up for what she believed in. These memories and countless others haunted Thomas. They were the scars of war, etched deep into his soul. The Great Train War eventually came to an end. A truce was called, a fragile peace brokered between the two exhausted nations. The rails, once a battleground, were slowly repaired. The scars of war, however, remained. Thomas, like many other veterans, struggled to adjust to peacetime. The memories of the war continued to haunt him. The whispers of the fallen still echoed in his ears. He found solace in the quiet rhythm of the rails, in the familiar chug of his engine. He returned to his old job, pulling passenger trains across the land. He carried families on holidays, businessmen to important meetings, children on school trips. He tried to find joy in his work, to recapture the innocence he had lost. The Great Train War had changed him, but it had not broken him. He carried the hope for a better future. A future where the rails would once again be symbols of progress and connection, not destruction and division.